Hello there. I hope you had a great week, friends. I'm so curious if your family has a special question that you ask at the dinner table. Maybe naming your favorite thing from the day. Some families do the highs and lows. Sometimes at our house, we ask about God sightings, asking, how did you see God at work today? It could be as simple as being encouraged by something you read in the Bible, or maybe you saw how a prayer has been answered. It could be a lot of different things, maybe even remembering a promise that God has kept. Because we are children of God, we know God is at work in us and all around us. We can always be looking for ways that we see the Lord's faithfulness. This week, we are finishing our unit about God's people, the Israelites, returning to the land God had promised them. Remember that the Israelites didn't always obey God, and their consequence was that they had to leave their land for 70 years. God kept his promise of bringing them back to the land and rebuilding God's temple, which we learned about in the book of Ezra these last few weeks. We'll read in this week's story, the prophet Zechariah had several dreams that were messages from God. The visions he saw may seem like some strange things to us, but each of these visions was a special message from God. Zechariah's message is important because it tells us the story of what God did for his people and how he was going to restore them. God showed how he would take away their sin and make them whole again. Zechariah told of a future king who would humbly come on a donkey. Can you guess who that future king might be? King Jesus. As we have learned about several of the prophets in the Old Testament, we can be reminded that Jesus is the perfect prophet. He perfectly reveals God the Father and fulfills what the prophets spoke. After you study our lesson this week, there is a cool activity at the end of our family guide that has you match Old Testament prophecies to the events that happened hundreds of years later in the New Testament when Jesus lived on earth. It is so special to see how Jesus fulfilled these prophecies. As you read our story this week, you and your family can reflect on how Jesus is different from earthly kings. We can thank God for his faithfulness to keep his promise of sending a Savior, King Jesus. We are still missing you, and I hope you have lots of God sightings this week. I'll see you next time. Bye.